I have prepared slides for what's on the quiz tomorrow, okay? So what we've done in the other classes is go through all these slides so that you know what's going to be on the quiz. You ask me which ones you want me to do, we practice them, okay? I do not have a worksheet for you that goes with this. The things you would need out, I would suggest you have scratch paper out, even if you want to take some pictures with your phone. We're going to do some calculating as we practice these, so you need some scratch paper. Your blue unit circle sheets that you get to use tomorrow, and you get to use your colored unit circle sheet because we're doing inverses, okay? While you're digging around in your folder, when we get to the very end today, we're going to do an example off the new packet worksheet 5B. I know you're like, what? Worksheet 5B on the new packet. Okay, so blue reference sheet, colored unit circle, and worksheet 5B from that new packet. And some scratch paper. All right, I know you're ready to shoot me now, right? Okay, I've tried my best to prepare something that looks like each question ready, not ready? All right. So the first two questions ask you to find the area of a triangle. They look kind of like this. Do you know which formula you use for this one? It's area, guys. The two area formulas are on the bottom of the blue sheet. Huron's formula is for which one though? Yeah, when you know all the sides, okay? This one you can just do 1/2 AB sine C. So it'd be 1/2 times 5 times 14 times the sine of 52. I don't need to do that one. We're good? Okay. This one area again, so you would use what? Okay. So you would add them all up. 28, 39 maybe. And then you have to divide by 2 because S stands for semi-perimeter or halfway around. Okay. And then you would take that number and you would multiply it by that number minus 15, by that number minus 13, by that number minus 11, and then you'd square root all that disaster. Need me to finish that one or you got this? Okay. You can store it, yes. So if you did 39 divided by 2 and then hit that store key and X, then you wouldn't have to keep typing that part. So you would type X times X minus 15, close parenthesis, X minus 13, close parenthesis, X minus 11. Any questions? All right, then there are 6 questions where you have to find a missing side or angle using law of sines or cosines. They are not solve the whole equation kind of questions, okay? Yeah, or solve the whole triangle. They ask for a specific piece of information. It does say in the directions it's possible that you will get no triangle or more than one. What's the only time you would have more than one if I'm asking for one specific piece of information? If you're doing law of sines and you have something like angle side side, right? It's possible to have more than one. When you type second sine, you got to look for 2 solutions. I have a couple examples here. The first one is really kind of tricky. but it says you have a triangle FDE. Sorry, that's really scribbly. F is 148, side E is 34, and side F is 33. Do you see where that's that situation, angle side side? Okay. If we set this up to find angle E over here, the sine of E is across from 34 in the same way the sine of 148 is across from 33. This actually works. Can you type that in and see what you get? 34 times the sine of 148 divided by 33. And then you have to do second sine. And you get 33.1. Okay. What? You would subtract from 180 to find the other solution, but can you have actually either of those? You can't have this because we already have an obtuse angle. But if this is 33.1, that leaves a negative 1.1 up there. Yeah, it was a hard one. I think the one on the quiz, probably when you set it up and you type second sine, it's going to say like error, okay? The one that's not possible. But this one is not possible. Did anybody notice it ahead of time? From the beginning, you could see it wasn't going to work if you really thought about it. This is obviously the biggest angle, right? So can it be a side across from a less than the biggest side? It would have to be. Okay. This one is the kind that has two solutions. I'm going to tell you right now, but let me see. Can I move some of this? Maybe. Neither of these work, by the way. All right, so work on drawing this one. Everybody's good with how you draw those? Are you not getting something, Riley? 180 minus 33.1. Whenever you do second sine, you should have two solutions. Remember we talked about how the sine graph does this, it crosses twice. So when you do second sine, it gives you this answer, but 180 minus this answer is also a possibility. But it doesn't work, but sometimes it will, and that's going to be, on this case, it's going to over here, okay? So sine of 61 is across from 23 in the same way the sine of P is across from 24. Anybody get 0.9126? And when you do second sine of that, you get 65.9. Or this is when you do the or, 180 minus 65.9, which is 114.1. Now, can we eliminate either one of those? Okay. Could it definitely could be this. Could it be 114.1? Well, it's across from the longer side, and if you add that up, 180 minus 114.1 minus 61, yeah, I did it wrong. It's like 4.9. Anybody get this angle is possible, right? You'd have something left over to make an angle up here. Be tiny angle, but it's possible. So you have to have both of those solutions, okay? Yes. No, there are no solve the whole triangles, okay? At all. No, what you do have to do is you have to, there's going to be two answers for H and 2 answers for the side across from it. Yes. Okay. Yeah. No, no, no. You would have 2 answers for P, obviously, because we found 2 answers for P, but then you'd have 2 different answers for H and H prime, the side H. Did Jacob get his question answered? Yeah. Okay. All right. There is one application problem. It is not labeled. It has a picture, but it's not labeled. Okay. For example, somebody wants to know how tall the school is. So they walk straight out, or they're standing away from the school. I don't know how far. Okay. But they look up and it's 40 degrees to the top of the school. Then they go another 500 feet out, and now it's only 22 degrees up to the top of the school. Or something. Okay. Does it make sense that you could label that correctly if that was the story problem? Okay. Obviously, this angle has to be less than this one, right? Because you've gone further out and you're looking, you don't have to look up so much. Okay. And the distance further that they've gone is here. All right. Now, once we know that, then we need to fill in a bunch of stuff on the picture. What can we fill in? Okay. This is 180. So this is a 140 in here. This is a 90 if we want the height. So this is a 50 because it makes 180. What else? 18 up there, I think, to make that little triangle 180. Okay, we're trying to find X. Yeah, we got to find this guy first, okay? And then we can use this triangle over here to find X. Is that good enough explanation? You could do that? All right. Then there are 4 multiple choice graphs. One is a sine or cosine, and the other 3 are either tangent, cotangent, secant, or cosecant. They're matching, okay? Gives you an equation, pick which one is graphed correctly. I would suggest that you can do them all without your calculator because they're not horribly complicated. And honestly, typing in some of these, like 3 plus 2 secant of 1/4 x I'll leave it like that. Some of you will not type that in correctly, right? So then you might pick the wrong thing or have a mess. It's actually probably easier to just graph some of these and pick the right one. All right. You can use your calculator. I'm not taking it away from you. What mode would you need to be in for those problems only? Radians. Okay. But these are a couple examples. I don't have multiple choice here, but do you remember how to graph this? What do you graph first? 2 sine of 1/2 x, right? Or theta? Everybody okay with what I did there? So a sine graph that has an amplitude of 2 and a period of what? 2 pi divided by 1/2 would be 4 pi. We okay? So this would be 4 pi. This would be 2 pi. If we went over here, it would be negative 2 pi. So where should this graph have asymptotes? 0, 2 pi, 4 pi. Okay. And then all these little loops flip over, right? And these relative maximums and minimums should be at a y value of 2. So if you thought about it and did a little sketch, I'm pretty sure you could pick the right choice then without trying to type it in your calculator and worrying about it, okay? Do we need me to talk about y or not, or this other one? Are we good? Okay. If it's a tangent or a cotangent, maybe you want to type it in your calculator. I don't know, because some of you have more trouble with memorizing where those are at, okay? How would you type if it said 4 cotangent 2x? 4, and then you could do 1 over tangent of 2x, okay? Okay. Second tangent is the inverse of tangent. It's not the reciprocal of tangent. It's different. All right. 6 exact trig values, and it doesn't say using your unit circle, but okay. Does this look familiar, guys? It's been on the last 2 quizzes. They're only worth 1 point apiece, but there's 6 of them on there because I'm going to keep hitting this till we can use that unit circle, okay? We can go through these real fast. Again, these are not pretty numbers. That's just, if we do 35 pi over 6 times 180 over pi, we get 1050. If we subtract a couple 360s, this changes to 330. So I just changed it to degrees and found the coterminal angle, okay? Now, what's the ordered pair there? Okay, got that ordered pair. Now we need to find the cosecant, which is what? The sign flipped over. So we get -2. We good? Okay, 420 subtract 360 is 60. What is the the ordered pair? 1/2 and square root of 3 over 2. So the tangent is, I do that? Put the y value over the x value, ignoring the denominator, right? Because it'll cancel out. So you just get square root of 3 over 1 or square root of 3. Everybody okay? All right. -15 pi over 4 changed to degrees. I think it's -675. If we add a couple 360s, we get 45. Did anybody else get that? So changed to degrees and made positive by adding some. We're here at this ordered pair. What's the cosine? That one's not hard. Okay. What's the ordered pair at 180? Okay. Now we got some struggles here. Some of you want to put like y over x or x over y, but secant is just what? The reciprocal of cosine. So it's -1 flipped over, which is -1. Okay? Well, some people are doing y over x, x over y. What is y over x? Tangent. And x over y would be cotangent. Okay. Cosecant at 9 pi over 2? It's actually at 90, yep. So it's 0, 1. What is the cosecant? The flip of sine, so it's 1 over 1 or 1. Okay. Secant at 330, just right down here. Which of those do we have to flip over? Cosine, which is 2 over square root of 3, or 2 square roots of 3 over 3. We good? Okay. I think we finally got that, I hope. All right. Then there are 6 questions for which you will want to use your colored unit circle. Reviewing real quick. For inverse sine or inverse tangent, for inverse sine, it's -pi over 2 to pi over 2. All of your answers have to fall in there. Inverse tangent, it is the same except you don't include the endpoints there. And inverse cosine, your answer has to be between 0 and pi. Is that written on your unit circle? Okay. Eventually, you're not going to have the colored unit circle, but you will have this written on the reference sheet at the end of the semester, okay? So you'll just have to know how to find them, but it will tell you so that you remember to look in which quadrants. All right. Where's the sine 0? Sine is 0 here at 0 radians. I'm just going to go down. I don't know why, but I am. Inverse sine -1. So where's a y value of -1? Down there. Can we answer -pi over 2 for inverse sine? Yep. We can't answer 270 or 3 pi over 2, right? But we can call it -pi over 2. If it was a tangent, we couldn't because it doesn't go that far, but it's right up to it. Okay, where's the cosine negative square root of 2 over 2? Be careful. Cosine is in these two quadrants. So it's here at 3 pi over 4. Are we good? Okay, tangent is the tricky one. Tangent is negative. What quadrant do I have to look in? Tangent says I should be looking where it's red. It's going to be negative down here. So it's one of those 3 points, right? So I could have negative 1 over square root of 3. I could have negative square root of 2 over square root of 2. I could have negative square root of 3 over 1. Which one would simplify to that? Yes, this would be negative 1 over square root of 3, which would then become this. So that was negative pi over 6. Take your time on those tangent ones. Okay, cosine, that's an easy one. First quadrant, pi over 6. Is everybody good? Tangent again, but it's positive. So what quadrant are we looking in? First quadrant. Which one is square root of 3 or square root of 3 over 1? We're good? All right, then the other kind we had were composites of those. Okay, where you had two functions. Sometimes they canceled each other out, but the basic idea was you started inside out, right? Is this going to be found on your unit circle? Are any of these going to be found on the unit circle? Yeah, we could look at number 8, right? If we started here, we'd start inside. What is the cosine at pi over 6? And where is the sine? Square root of 3 over 2. Okay. But this one's not on our unit circle, so what do we have to do? It's positive. Where am I going to label these? Okay. Some of us are still struggling with Pythagorean theorem. Leg is 3. The other leg is missing. 7 is the hypotenuse. So 49 minus 9 is square root of 40. 2 square roots of 10. So the tangent is all right. Number 9, drawing or unit circle? Okay, go to the unit circle. Tangent at pi over 4. Not what angle has. This is not an inverse. It's just plain old tangent. That value is square root of 2 over 2 or square root of 2 over 2 or 1, right? Where is the sine 1? That 90 or pi over 2, right? We're going to answer pi over 2. All right. Another one where we have to draw, where we're going to put the 4 and the 5 this time. It's actually the same as the last one, right? We're looking for a leg, so we're subtracting, right, to find the shorter. So the tangent. Everybody okay? Need me to go through Pythagorean theorem, or we got that one? All right. There's one. Notice I have 3 of them up here in case we need to practice extra. But there's one of these where there's an x. Remember these? So this one starts with an arc cosine, but that still means there's adjacent and hypotenuse, and we need to write an expression for the tangent. Hypotenuse squared minus leg squared, square rooted, and you can't reduce, right? Nobody's going to randomly decide to reduce that. Okay, the tangent would then be opposite over adjacent, yes? Okay, I'm going to do this one over here because it's a little bit different. If you need me to do the one in the middle, I can. If the tangent is just x, what do I do? Okay, so opposite over adjacent. Now, what goes on the hypotenuse? It's leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared, right? Please don't write that. What is 1 squared? Okay, so it is the square root of 1 plus x squared. It's icky though. What's the sign? Opposite over that. So it would be x square roots of 1 plus x squared all over 1 plus x squared. I don't think it's like that on the quiz. I think it might be like that on the retake if you so do it right the first time, then you won't have to. Everybody okay? Do you need me to do the one in the middle or we good? Is it a minus though? Right? Because it would be a cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so then this would be 1 minus x squared. And it's that over hypotenuse. Everybody okay with that one? All right. There is one question where you have to write an equation for a graph. Okay. This one's really hard to see. Let me give you a couple ordered pairs. This is negative pi over 4, negative 6. And this is 3 pi over 4, 2. What do you want to start with? Finding the period. You can find the amplitude. I don't care what you want to do first. Amplitude would be max minus min divided by 2. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's not where that goes. Okay, so this is 4, which means 4 units down from here, or 4 units above here is negative 2, which is the what? Yep, the midline or the vertical shift would be down 2. Okay. How are you getting that? From here to here you counted? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not going by halves. This is half, but you counted this, right? So what is half of half? So it's pi over 4 that it's counting by. So there was 8 pi over 4s in between this point and this point, max to max. So what is 8 pi over 4s? 2 pi, which makes the b value just 1, right? We don't have a period change. It's just 2 pi. Oh, I wrote period down here again. Phase shift. Well, before we decide a phase shift, we need to decide we want to do a sine, a cosine, a negative sine, a negative cosine. Want to do a regular cosine? Okay. If it's a regular cosine, then we need a phase shift. Okay. If you want to do left pi over 4, then you have to call it what? A negative cosine, because you're starting here at the minimum. You want to do that? What else could you do? Left, and this is 5 pi over 4, I think. Or you could you do to the right 3 pi over 4, even though it doesn't show a whole nother cycle here? Does it matter? Yeah. Okay, as long as you started a maximum, you could do to the right 3 pi over 4, it wouldn't matter. All right, fill this into an equation for me that will work if I typed it in my calculator. If we're not, depends what you're going to do for a shift, but yeah, I would do negative. Okay, b is just 1, right? So you really don't need this extra parenthesis, but phase shift, if you're going to do the negative 1, it's plus pi over 4, and the whole thing was shifted down 2. Okay. You don't need the inside parentheses unless B is not 1, and then you do need those inside parentheses. Everybody okay? We found the distance from here to here. From -5 to +3 is 8, but it was pi over 4s. 8 pi over 4s was 2 pi. This is not any better, honestly. If this was -3 pi over 2 to pi over 2, it still would be a period of 2 pi. That's not good points that I've shown you, but I'm just trying to show you that the period is still 2 pi on this one. So, all right, guys. The other thing that's on there is a word, not a work problem. Forgot to fix that slide. Is a word problem. There's actually 2 of them. It is a trig modeling, like the height of the Ferris wheel, or the tide, or the body temperature of some animal that lowers and raises periodically, or some crazy business, okay? You have to draw the sketch and write the equation. I'm mostly interested in your equation, but if you get the equation wrong, I can give you partial credit if you at least started the sketch, the graph correctly, okay? I'm only going to grade one of them. So what you need to do, if you get one put together and you don't like it, or you don't understand, you want to try them both, but when you're done, you got to tell me which one you want me to grade, or otherwise I'm going to just grade the first one, and if it's wrong, it's wrong, okay? I'm trying to give you a choice. Here's an example. This is not exactly like the example would be on the quiz, but a paddle wheel was 13 feet in diameter and was revolving 30 times per minute. That part might not be like that. We'll figure it out in a minute here. Using this speed starting from a height at the very top of the wheel. So we want to measure something from the top here. Write a model for the height in feet. So based on time, we're trying to find the height. Relative to the water's surface, okay? Assume the paddle is 2 feet below the surface at its lowest point. So the water level here goes 2 feet below. So where's the minimum at? -2. Everybody okay? 2 feet below the water, the height, 2 feet below. Where's the tallest it goes? If 13 is all the way across and this was down 2, then this is a maximum height. This whole distance is 13, but above the water, it's only 11, right? Okay. Where are we going to start? It says it starts at the top. We started timing at the top. Now, this is the part that would probably not be this complicated on the test, but it says it goes around 30 times a minute. We hit a minute out here somewhere, okay? It's gone around 30 times. Can we just call that 60 seconds? So if it went around 30 times in 60 seconds, then where would it have hit the first time around? 30 times, 60 seconds, takes 2 seconds to go around once? I don't think it's that complicated. Yeah, that's extremely fast, I'm thinking. That's a pretty fast paddle wheel. Takes only 2 seconds to go all the way around. 13-foot diameter wouldn't even fit in this room. So from here, 2 seconds. All right, let's keep going. Is it for my benefit to write the equation? I don't need all the other ordered pairs, right? Can I find what I need right now? What can you tell me? The amplitude, not pretty. That might be the vertical shift, but the amplitude, that's a distance of 13, right? So half of that would be 6.5 above and 6.5 below what midline? If you add and divide by 2, you get 4.5, yes? So the amplitude is 6.5 and the vertical shift is 4.5. What's the period? 2 seconds. So B is going to be 2 pi over 2, or just pi. Do we need a phase shift? No. It would have needed a phase shift if it said the first time it hits the top is 1 second in, right? Or 0.25 seconds in. Then you would have had to shift it. Okay. Ready to write the equation? H equals cosine. Amplitude was 6.5, okay. Yeah, oh yeah, that's gonna work really well. We're just gonna erase that. 6.5 cosine, then what? B? Do we need a phase shift? Not if we're gonna do cosine. So we're gonna call that T plus 4.5. Yeah, I don't care. I'm not gonna use X and Y or use theta. That's the least of my concerns. Okay. I have another one here, but I also have one. If you pulled out worksheet 5B, did you do that when I suggested it? Towards the bottom of worksheet 5B is another one of these, and I thought this way you could actually have an example to look at tonight if you didn't write that down. It says, assume you're aboard a submarine submerged in the Pacific Ocean. At the time T, you make contact with an enemy destroyer. Immediately you start porpoising or going deeper and shallower, trying to avoid radar detection. Okay. At 4 minutes in, you will reach your deepest, which is negative 1,000. So I don't know what you were doing before that, but you finally hit the deepest here. Okay. And at 9 minutes in, you reach the shallowest, which is negative 200. Is that a period? That's half of a period, right? Went from deepest to shallowest. Okay. What can you tell me? Okay. Assuming it's periodic, which we're supposed to assume, this is half a period, which was 5 minutes in here. So it'd be another 5 minutes, which we can find that ordered pair out there, but all we really care about is that the period is 10 minutes. Okay, it takes us 10 minutes to go up and down on our porpoising. Now what? Okay, so the B value is 2 pi over 10 or pi over 5. Taisir, how do you find the amplitude? You divide something. What is the total distance here? So half of that would be, okay, so it's 400 below here and 400 above here. So the amplitude is 400. It's max minus min divided by 2. So you'd have negative 200 minus negative 1,000, which would be positive 800 divided by 2. Okay, that's the formula if you do it that way. All right, so where's the midline? Anybody? Midline is right through the middle of those two. If you add and divide by 2, you get negative 600. Okay, equation. Y in terms of t, it says, which I'm not going to be picky about, but what do you want to call this? A negative cosine? Okay, so we have negative what? 400 cosine, parenthesis, pi over 5, second parenthesis, minus 4 to the right, minus 600. Were you confused? because otherwise you need to distribute the pi over 5 to the 4. If you want, right now with the parentheses, it's shifting it to the right 4. If you get rid of those parentheses, it's not going to shift it to the right 4. It's going to shift it to the right 4 pi over 5 or whatever, because it would be C over B. All right. If you were to answer part C, you would have to type it in your calculator. So, on my calculator, I did negative 400 cosine pi over 5, another parenthesis, x minus 4, close both parentheses, minus 600. Then what would an appropriate window be? Look at our numbers right here. 0 to something for x, right, across. And we need negative 1,000 as the bottom at least, up to 0. Okay, so I graphed it and got this. How do I find out the answer to that question down there? Trace 0. Okay, I get negative 276. Says your submarine is safe when it's below 300 meters. At time 0, were we below 300? No, we were at negative 276. We were not safe. Okay, we could draw in the line at 300, figure out how long it took us to get safe, whatever. But all right, I think that's all I have. Are we good for the... What am I doing?